I welcome you all to this lesson on the human heart. You will be amazed to know that an adult human heart has a mass of around 300 grams. And this human heart, if you look at its frontal view, this is how it looks like when you look at it from the front of your body. So this seems like a pouch or a sac which is made up of muscles, and these muscles we call them cardiac muscles. Plus, it's filled with blood, which is the fluid connective tissue. Uh, if you see, it's present between your two lungs, the right and the left lung, and slightly tilted to the left. So this is uh, on the left, and this is the right side. This is the left side. So it's present between the right and the left lung and slightly tilted to the left. If you look at this section, slightly to the left. Uh, this heart is essentially present within a double-walled membrane. Uh, that double-walled membrane is referred as pericardium. So it is externally protected by a two-walled membrane. That two-walled membrane is called a pericardium, which is essentially filled with a fluid. That fluid is called pericardial fluid. That is the pericardial fluid. Now, the heart actually arises. One more thing that you need to remember over here before we go further, that it actually arises from mesoderm. So it is mesodermal in origin. It arises from the mesoderm, which is one of your germ layers. The other two germ layers include ectoderm and endoderm. So we humans are essentially triploblastic. So during our embryonic development, three germ layers are formed: ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm. So this arises from your mesoderm. So you can uh, take note of this, that your heart is mesodermal in origin, and your heart is of the size of your fist. Let's get to its structure now, what it is essentially made up of, and what it internally uh, consists of. If you look at this diagram, you will see that your heart essentially has got four chambers. Uh, two chambers uh, in the upper region, and these two lower chambers. So let me first mark this is the right side of your heart. This is the right of your heart. Okay, and this is the left of your heart. So this is the left of your heart. So this is the left side of your heart, and this is the right side of your heart. Uh, your right side of your heart, it contains deoxygenated blood, the blood which has got little oxygen, or we can say which is deficient in oxygen. While as the left half of your heart has got oxygenated blood, the blood which is rich in oxygen, or which has got sufficient oxygen. Now, the two upper chambers, these two chambers are here, these are called atria. The singular is atrium. So let me write it over here. So there are two atria in the upper part of your heart. So atria, the singular is atrium. So this is the right atrium. Let me write RA. RA refers to right atrium. So here I must write LA. So this is left atrium. Now, these two chambers actually open into these lower chambers. So these lower chambers are referred as ventricles. So again, ventricles are two in number, like your atria. So this is right ventricle and this is left ventricle. So these are the four chambers which make your heart. Atria, sometimes we also call them uh, auricles. Let me write over here. We also call them auricles sometimes. Uh, Now, if you look at the, the right and the left half of your heart, there is a thin muscular wall in between. This thin muscular wall in between. It exists between the right side of your heart and the left side of your heart. So this makes the partition in between. This is referred as septum. So this wall, this muscular wall, which exists between the right and the left half of your heart, is referred as septum. And this septum doesn't allow the oxygenated blood to mix with the oxygenated blood. So the blood which is present in the right half of your heart doesn't mix with the left blood that is in the left half of your heart. So the only way uh, that the blood of one the one half of your heart uh, goes to the other half of the heart is either it has to flow out of the heart around your body or your lungs, and then it can return back to the heart, to other half of the heart. We will study that in detail uh, in the cardiac cycle. That will be our next lesson, or we have already discussed it in the double blood circuit. Now, if you see, uh, the job of the right half of your heart is actually to receive blood, and the job of the left half of your heart is to pump blood to your body after it gets oxygenated in your lungs. So whether it is right atria or left atria, they will receive blood either from your body or from the lungs. Now, the right atrium, if you see, it opens into right ventricle, and there is a valve which actually guards this opening. This valve which exists over here between your right atrium and right ventricle, it has got three muscular flaps. So that's why we refer to it as this valve over here. We refer to this as tricuspid valve. Tricuspid valve. And there is again uh, a valve that exists between left auricle and left ventricle. This here. So this is here. But it has got just two muscular flaps, and that's why we call it bicuspid. Bicuspid valve. Or it has one more name. You must remember this as well. Mitral valve. This exists between a left auricle and left ventricle. Now, the right half of your heart, it actually receives blood from the whole of your body, the deoxygenated blood, which comes from your body. Let me use the blue one. Uh, so that this and it receives blood through veins, through big veins, through large veins. So this vein, which brings blood from the lower part of your body, is the inferior vena cava, and the plural is cavae, vena cavae. Okay, Cavae, and through this, it actually receives the right atrium receives blood from the superior part of your body. So we refer to this vein as superior vena cava. Okay, the plural will be vena cava. So these are the vena cava which actually bring blood that is deoxygenated, which contains very little oxygen. The oxygen has been used by the cells in a process called cellular respiration to release energy from glucose so that your cells keep up the cellular processes which take place in your cells. Uh, this energy is what actually powers those cellular processes in your cells, and your cells keep up functioning. Now, uh, coronary vein uh, brings the oxygen blood from your heart, okay, into the right atrium. So right atrium gets filled with all the oxygen, which has all the blood, which has got very little oxygen. So this comes to the heart. Now, simultaneously, this left atrium, it receives blood from lungs where it has gone for oxygenation. The blood rushes down into the right ventricle. From right ventricle, you can see it flows into an artery. You must remember that the blood vessels which take blood away from heart, we refer to those as arteries. Okay, so this artery that I'm showing you here, it actually takes this deoxygenated blood, which contains very little oxygen. It pumps it. So it's pumped into this artery, and it is carried to the lungs, which are close by, because both lungs and the heart are present in the same cavity. Uh, the heart is present in between the two lungs. So the blood is carried to the lungs for oxygenation through these veins, through these arteries, sorry, and this is what we call pulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery. Uh, Please remember that pulmonary artery is the only artery that carries deoxygenated blood, that carries blood which is deficient or which has got very little oxygen. Rest of the arteries actually carry oxygenated blood. So the blood goes to the lungs for oxygenation, and in the lungs through alveoli, the oxygen diffuses into the blood. Now that blood is brought back to the heart. I told you earlier that this septum doesn't allow the blood which is in the right half of your heart to go to the left half of your heart. The only way is either uh, this blood has to it has to be pumped to lungs, or it has to be pumped to the body. Then it will return back to the heart, and it can go to the other half of the heart. That is the only way. So here you see the blood goes to the lungs for oxygenation from right ventricle. Now it comes back to the left auricle. So the blood comes back to the heart. So earlier the blood came to the heart from the whole of your body, which is deoxygenated blood, or the blood that contains little oxygen. Now, it comes after oxygenation to the left half of your heart, especially to the left atrium. And the blood vessels which bring blood to the heart, we refer to them as veins. So this is your pulmonary. So whenever we use the word pulmonary, pulmonary actually refers to lungs. So these veins actually come from the lungs. So this is the pulmonary vein. So pulmonary veins, they actually bring blood into the left atrium. The blood is oxygenated. Now, as the blood builds up in the left atrium, it exerts the pressure on the bicuspid valve or the mitral valve. The valve opens and the blood rushes down into the left ventricle. Left ventricle pumps this blood into this big, let me just erase this so that we have space. Yeah, into this big artery. This big artery is referred as systemic aorta, or simply you can call it aorta. So it branches off into different branches, transporting blood, carrying blood to different parts of your body, to the superior part of your body, to the inferior part of your body, to the body trunk, so to different parts of your body. Uh, Now, if you see these arteries, okay, which actually take blood away from your heart. So one is your pulmonary artery here. So this one, okay. The other is your systemic aorta. This one, systemic aorta. So if you see uh, in the pulmonary artery, the blood is pumped by left ventricle into it, and into into the systemic aorta, the blood is pumped by left ventricle. Uh, you can also see the left ventricle is more muscular than the right ventricle, because right ventricle has to pump blood into the pulmonary artery, and the pulmonary artery just needs to carry this blood to the lungs, which are just close by. So not much pressure is required. But here in the left ventricle, the blood is pumped into the systemic aorta, and the blood has to be transported to the whole of the body, around the body. The blood goes around your body to each and every cell so that oxygen is transported to your cells. So that's why it has got more muscles, it's more musculate, it has got more musculature than your right ventricle. So in these uh, two arteries, you do find at the base these valves here. So here is one valve and here is another valve. And these valves are referred as, so we refer to these valves as, this valve you can call it, collectively they are referred as semilunar valves. Semilunar. Semi means half, and lunar refers to the moon. So they are just half moon shaped like this. Okay. So they are half moon shaped. That's why they are referred as semilunar valves. Valves. Okay. So in short, you can write down vessel valves, and earlier we had valves between atria and ventricles, so we can call them atrioventricular valves. So these two valves over here, they can be referred as atrioventricular valves. So SL and atrioventricular, you can call them AV valves. So there are two different types of valves. AV valves, which exist between atria and ventricles. Okay, there are two atrioventricular valves. Uh, Tricuspid valve exists between right auricle and right ventricle. Bicuspid valve exists between left auricle and left ventricle, and that's also referred as mitral valve. And in the arteries, there exist semilunar valves. So this is pulmonary semilunar valve, and this is aorta semilunar valve. Okay. Uh, so the job of these valves, whether these are semilunar valves or atrioventricular valves, the job is to ensure that blood is transported in one direction only. So their job is to prevent the backflow of blood. Okay, so once right ventricle or left ventricle, they pump their blood into these arteries. These valves close to prevent the backflow of blood. Same when auricles, okay, when from the auricles the blood rushes down into the ventricles, these atrioventricular valves close so that the blood is prevented from flowing back into the atria.